What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic channel, and today we're talking College Football DFS, round 2 of Maction, so it is the Wednesday Week 10 slate. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you by Prize Picks. They have a deal for new users where you can make your first deposit and get matched up to $100. They're also giving you one free month of Odd Shopper, and we have tons of tools for sports betting. We have sides, totals, player props, which will help you over at Prize Picks. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 to play. All right. Let's dive into our second slate of Maction. My mouse isn't working, as happens quite often. There we go. All right. So bring you behind the glass. And we will start things with Ball State Bowling Green. So as usual, normal disclaimer for Maction. If you were the type that really tilts injuries, this is not the slate for you. Reporting in the MAC is scarce and often inaccurate. So if having a player randomly out of your lineup catching a 0 is a problem, do not play. If you were like me and you realize that you are just as likely to be on the positive end of this as the negative, this is a great slate. Starting with Ball State Bowling Green, we have a 5.5-point spread, 40-point total. The slightly better game environment. Both teams are really slow. Ball State is 112th in pace. Bowling Green is 131st. Pass rate for Ball State, 48.5. Bowling Green is at 43.6%. One thing with Ball State's pass rate, they've changed quarterbacks for a third time this year, and now they're running out Kyle Kelly. Under Kelly, this team has embraced the run. Pass rate has plummeted. We're talking maybe like 35% pass rate over the last 2 games, and that fits Kyle Kelly's skill set. He's a mobile signal caller. He already has 344 rushing yards despite barely playing this year. And the offense just looks different. Lane Hatcher and Caden Samoza have not been able to do anything, but at least Kyle Kelly can run. Can't really pass, but Bowling Green's defense, it's decent overall. The only thing really else to say here is he's the only quarterback that has a locked-in starting role, it appears. Every other quarterback we'll talk about today is at risk of being in a timeshare. So Kyle Kelly, he's your cash game quarterback, and you're probably running 4 running backs today, honestly, and not playing 2 quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks should be the contrarian build. Running back here, Marquez Cooper. He's another player that benefits from this elevated run rate for Ball State of late. Coming off a 26 carry game, 1 target as well. He's also involved in the pass game. You know, prior to Kelly taking over, he had 12 targets in the 2 prior combined games. But now under Kelly, they're just not throwing as much. So the opportunity looks good either way. You'd love it if they did throw him the ball, but if it's just going to lead to extra attempts, I'm not really too worried about Marquez Cooper. He's expensive, but this slate might as well not be priced. You can play whoever you want, really, with very little effort. So watch for dupes, but you should see Cooper play quite a bit. Vaughn Pemberton does play as their pass catching back again. They're not really passing the ball anymore, so Cooper just fine. He'd be in my cash lineup. The receivers for Ball State, I think, are all going to see their volume drop with Kyle Kelly under center. And this is kind of a mess to begin with. The wide receiver 1 is actually tight end Tanner Koziel. He leads the team by 1 target. He has like a 95% route rate over the last couple games, so I think he's fine. Interestingly, Chan Magwood is a receiver that doesn't have a route rate up near like the 90%, but he's still the most targeted receiver, not including the tight end Tanner Koziel. So I don't hate getting to him. It's still 5.5 targets per game. But interestingly, Ahmad Edwards and Malcolm Gilly both have played more routes than really consistently at this point. The last 3 games, Magwood's been behind Edwards and Gilly. So you want a tournament flyer. I think you could maybe look at Gilly and Edwards. Gilly's the stone min. It looks like he didn't play last game. He did. He just wasn't targeted. As you can see, they barely threw the ball at all. Weird game, but Bowling Green, I think Connor Baslick's going to start here. He was in a timeshare with Camden Orth last game. I think some of that game script, so garbage time Orth played, but I don't know what they do at this point. Like Orth might start. They might split 50-50. Baslick might play the whole time. Orth should probably start this game and play the whole time. His efficiency is actually right on par with Baslick, but then he can run. Baslick is just a walking sack-taking machine. But all this to say, I don't know who plays quarterback for them. Our projections have it about 70% Baslick, 30% Orth right now. you're just going to have to watch pregame, and you might not even get this news in pregame. So tournament only for Basilic and Orth. Running backs, you could play Terry and Stewart. It's similar to Ball State where they do use Teron Keith as their pass catcher. He's actually second on the team in targets. So Stewart, he needs a game script that sort of lets them play from ahead where he can rack up 20-plus carries. He's seen that number in 3 of the last 4 games, but you can also see where it gets catastrophically bad. In the third most recent game, only 8 carries. He's been pretty efficient. He's averaging 82.5 yards per game. Just doesn't give you anything as a receiver. He only has 1 target all year. So you are kind of banking on Bowling Green playing from ahead. They're 5.5-point favorites, though. Teron Keith is an interesting dart. He's too expensive, but for tournaments, I mean, you're just paying to be different. And you're going to see a lot of dupes on this slate, so that could be something worthwhile. Again, receivers for Bowling Green, not the pass heaviest team, pretty run heavy. Odu Hilaire, he is at 4K. He has 38 targets this year and 228 yards. That's 28.5 yards per game for Hilaire. Pretty bad opportunity overall for the Bowling Green pass catchers. But yeah, I mean, you got to play some receivers on this slate. I wish we could play 8 running backs, but we can't. So Hilaire's a good price-adjusted option. He plays every single snap almost. Abdul Fattah Ibrahim is their wide receiver 2, 33 targets for him. Behind Hilaire in terms of yardage, but playing every single snap. Austin Osborne is the 3. Routes for these guys are pretty consistent, so I think you can get all 3 of them. You're kind of just hoping one of them has a big play or catches a touchdown. Osborne's route rate trails Hilaire and Ibrahim a little bit. He's at about 70-ish%, whereas Ibrahim and Hilaire routinely above 90%. Harold Fannon's their tight end. They were rotating this a bit more early in the season, but they have sort of condensed their opportunity towards Harold Fannin. He's been above 60% of the routes last 2 games. Just a distant 4th option in the pass game for this team. And last thing to mention, Finn Hogan didn't play last game. So he had seen his opportunity stripped a little bit. You can see the 9-target game, and then it went down 1, and then didn't play at all. I'm not sure if this is opportunity, performance-driven stuff, or if this is injury. You just won't know with a lot of these teams. Before we move on to our second game, if you want access to this data tool, our projections, our ownership projections, we have all of that in our Stochastic DFS college football package. The link is in the video description below. I power this almost entirely by myself. So if you want to support me or you're interested in all this data, we have it huge for slates like this where you don't see Akron and Kent State very often on television. But if you're like me, you're not sitting out these slates. So you got to know. All right. Kent State, Akron, 4-point spread in favor of the Zips, 37.5 total, so slightly below the previous game. But I actually think there might be a little more DFS goodness because we've got a couple teams that pass a little bit more. Kent State, 64th in pace. They have a 44% pass rate. Akron, 79th in pace, 56.5% pass rate. We still don't have quarterback clarity in either of these teams either. Michael Alamo has been the starter for this team most of the year. Last couple games, they split him with Tommy Ulitkowski. Ulitkowski got hurt immediately. Coach was asked after the game if they're going to just move back to Alamo or continue this timeshare. He said he fully expects to get other players involved. So they've got Devin Cargman, who played a little bit for them last year when Colin Schley got injured. They also have Jaron Lewis, who's a Kansas State transfer. I think we're going to see these guys play. I don't know who. I don't know how much they play, and I don't know how that affects Alamo. But what I can tell you is this is the 4th ranked quarterback situation on this slate. I'd rather take shots on Camden North and Basilic. I'd rather take shots on the Akron guys who we'll talk about. Kent State QBs, complete mess. The biggest injury news on the slate is Gavin Garcia. He missed their last game. That led to Jalen Thomas seeing a monster opportunity share, 19 touches. But the backfield had already been trending this direction even prior to the injury. So I'm not sure that we really need to monitor this too much. Prior to, the 19-touch game, Jalen Thomas had touch counts of 24 in each of the 2 prior games. That's a monster opportunity share for Jalen Thomas. He's 5K. Efficiency's probably not going to be there. But, I mean, this is probably Kent State's easiest matchup the rest of the way. Akron is 1 win. They're allowing 4.5 yards per carry. You can play Jalen Thomas just fine. And then Krishan McCray is probably going to be the number 1 receiver we target, which is crazy to say. But he averages 56.8 yards per game. That tops the slate, 8 targets per game, a number that has jumped all the way up to 12 targets per game over the last 4. Hasn't seen fewer than 10 targets during that span. Just locked in safe play. Even if efficiency's not there, he should be able to put up a good floor just on the PPR volume. Jameel Gardner, Luke Flourier are the next two guys to mention, wide receiver 2 and 3. There's nothing really to note. They're both around 20 yards per game, but Trell Harris has been out. That's something worth noting. Again, don't expect injury updates from Kent State. But if Trell Harris plays, there's a chance he siphons off opportunity from Gardner and Flourier. Not something I really want to target, to be honest with you guys. Tight end, probably a mess for this team. I don't think we need to really get to Kent State tight ends. But for those of you that want to know whomst that is, Justin Holmes, Hayden Junker are splitting time at the tight end position, with Holmes playing a little bit more. Not a lot of interest for me. Akron, pass heavy, but unfortunately lost DJ Irons to the ACL. They tried to start Taj Bullock for 2 games. He played so poorly that they had to go to Jeff Undercuffler. And man, Undercuffler played all but 1 snap last game. He might play every snap this game, but this is the worst possible skill set for DFS. He doesn't run at all, and he has 11 sacks. The guy's barely played. He's averaging something absurd like 2 fantasy points per game as a quarterback because he takes so many sacks. His career yards per carry is like -6 per carry. It's the worst rushing output I've ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration. I've been doing this for a while. I've never seen somebody take so many sacks and have such poor mobility. Undercuffler is live to finish with negative points, even if he plays the whole game because of these sacks. The only thing that works in his favor is Kent State's defense is really bad. So for tournaments, I think we could get there. But also, I'm not sure he starts the game. You might see Taj Bullock start. So you got to monitor this. This is why Kyle Kelly's just locked in the stone best quarterback play, and it's not close. But tournaments, I would have some interest in Undercuffler, assuming he starts, just based on matchup alone. Backfield for this team, this is the, I guess, worst timeshare of the bunch. Lorenzo Lingard and Drake Anderson split work. It favors Lingard, 12.6 touches per game to 6.3 for Anderson. Both these players are pretty good. Lingard's a Florida transfer. Anderson's an Arizona transfer. And I like the players that this Akron team has. It's just the quarterback injury has completely derailed them. But Lingard, I think, is fine. This is a rare spot where Akron's favored. Kent State, 4.5 yards per carry. Again, I'm going to be playing 4 running backs in most builds today, and that will include Lingard and Anderson, just mixing and matching the 2 of them. Receiver, they throw more than any team on this slate, so we also need to target Akron receivers. I want at least one of Daniel George, Josiah Gathings, or Alex Adams in my lineups. They basically don't rotate, especially Gathings and Daniel George. Adams has a few more rotational games, but last 2, he was at 76% and 53% of routes. That's not terrible. When he comes off the field, it's for Bobby Golden, so just a deep name to mention. And then finally, tight end usually is TJ Banks, but recently we saw him split a little bit more with Jake Newell. I think you can still play TJ Banks in tournaments, but to rank them, it's by far Daniel George 1, Gathings 2, Adams 3, Golden 4, Banks 5. It's pretty clear, that pecking order. Fun slate. Enjoy, guys. I certainly will. If you have a comment, something to say, something I missed, let me know. And if you want to ask any questions, you can reach out on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Otherwise, we'll catch you tomorrow for a banger 3-game slate, as well as Friday and Saturday. Until then, good luck, everyone. We'll catch you next time.